When you think about the great saints and mystics of history, there are a few names that just stick with you. And one of them for sure is Sant Kabir. He wasn't someone who just gave you easy answers. No, he was the one who asked the questions. And those questions still hit hard today. So let's get into this incredible voice that's been echoing for more than 500 years.
And his questions were, well, they were radical. See, he didn't just pick a side or criticize one belief system. He stood right in the middle of it all, and he challenged everyone. He had tough questions for the temple, and he had tough questions for the mosque, for the pundit, and for the Malvi. No one was off limits. So that begs the question, what was he? In a world that loves putting people in boxes, Kabir just refused to fit. He wasn't a Hindu. He wasn't a Muslim. And understanding that refusal to be labeled, is the key to understanding everything about him. So if he didn't belong to any religion, what did he belong to? Well, the answer is so simple, but it's incredibly profound. He belonged only to truth. Such, he called it. That was it. That was his only religion, his only holy book, his only God. So yeah, this is the story of Sant Kabir Das. He was a weaver by trade, a poet by heart, and a spiritual rebel whose voice honestly feels just as powerful and just as necessary today as it did half a millennium ago. Now, Kabir's wisdom didn't come from some fancy university or from studying ancient scrolls in a monastery. Nope. His classroom was his weaver's loom, and his textbook, it was just life. Raw, real, unfiltered life. Let's just put his life into perspective, right? He was born around 1440 in the holy city of Kashi, during a time of really strict religious and social rules in India. He was raised by a lovely Muslim weaver couple, Niru and Nima. Later, he actually found a mentor in the Hindu guru Swami Ramanand, and he passed away around 1518 in a place called Maghar, and that choice, as we'll see, was his final act of rebellion. And this is so cool. His profession, being a weaver, a julaha, it became the perfect metaphor for his entire life's mission. For Kabir, weaving wasn't just about making cloth. It was about taking the separate threads of different communities, of different beliefs, and weaving them together into one beautiful fabric of unity. And that brings us right to the heart of his teachings. Kabir was searching for a God that was way too big to be trapped in a stone idol, or confined to a single holy book, or found only in some fancy ceremony. He was looking for a truth that lived beyond all the rituals. He talked a lot about the Nirakar or Nirgun, a supreme being that is totally formless, without any specific qualities, and is just everywhere, all at once. This was a God you couldn't carve into a statue, give a single name to, or say belonged to just one religion. And he had this amazing, sharp-witted way of making his point. He once said, "If I could find God by worshiping stones, I would worship a whole mountain." I mean, it's brilliant, right? He's basically saying if bigger is better when it comes to worship, then a mountain beats a little idol any day. It just shows how absurd he thought blind ritual was. He felt the same way about just reading books without understanding them. He wrote, "The world died reading book after book, but no one ever became truly wise." For Kabir, real wisdom wasn't about memorizing scriptures. It was about actually living the truth. But maybe his most famous couplet, the one that really gets you, is about looking inward. "I went searching for the wicked," he said, "and I found no one. But when I looked inside my own heart, I found there was no one more wicked than me." The message is just crystal clear. Stop pointing fingers at the world and start by looking in the mirror. And this idea, this radical self-reflection, it wasn't just some quiet personal advice. It exploded into a universal challenge. Kabir wasn't picking sides. He was going after dogma, that rigid, unthinking belief, wherever he found it. No one got a free pass, not the temple and not the mosque. And look at how elegantly he did it. His logic was perfect. To the Hindus, he'd ask, okay, if your God is right here in this stone idol, then who owns everything else? And then it turned to the Muslims and asked the exact same thing. If your God lives only in this mosque, then who owns the rest of the world? See what he did? He used one simple, brilliant question to show the limitation in both ways of thinking. So you can imagine the religious authorities, the Orthodox priests and scholars on both sides, they were not fans. They rejected him big time. But the common people, they loved him. They embraced him because he spoke in their language about their lives and voiced the simple truths they felt in their hearts. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, Even in his death, Kabir managed to teach his greatest lesson. The story of how he passed away is more than just a legend. It's this beautiful, powerful parable about the unity he preached his whole life. So, remember how he died in Maghar? Well, at that time, there was this really strong superstition that if you died in the holy city of Kashi, you'd go straight to heaven. But if you died in Maghar, you were doomed to hell. So what does Kabir do? He deliberately chooses to spend his last days and die in Maghar as one final defiant blow against blind faith. And this is where the story becomes truly magical. After he passed, his Hindu and Muslim followers immediately started arguing over what to do with his body. The Hindus wanted to cremate him, the Muslims wanted to bury him. The argument got heated. But when they finally lifted the shroud to claim his body,
There was no body, just a pile of fresh flowers. In that moment, there was nothing left to fight over. His physical form, the thing that they were labeling as Hindu or Muslim, was gone. And all that was left was something beautiful. The story says they peacefully divided the flowers and each group performed the rites in their own way. Even in death, he brought them together.
and his legacy today is so alive, it's incredible. There's the Kabir Panth, a whole community that follows his spiritual path. His devotional songs, his bhajans, are sung all over the world. And his dohe, those little two-line poems packed with wisdom, are still quoted all the time. He's not just some guy from a history book. He's an eternal question that every generation has to grapple with.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? The thing is, Kabir doesn't give you a map with an X that marks the spot where God is. He doesn't hand you a rule book. That was never, ever his point.
Instead, he does something much more challenging. He flips the whole thing around and puts the question back on us. He looks right at you, right now, and he asks a really simple question. Who are you? Really, take away the labels, the job, the family. Who are you?
And then he follows it up with another one. What is your truth? Not the truth you were told to believe, not the truth you read somewhere, the truth you've actually found for yourself, deep inside your own being.
You know, maybe his message for all of us, right here and now, is just this. Before anything else, before your religion, your nationality, your politics, just be human. And before you get lost in any ritual, first try to know the truth. That is the timeless, powerful, and unforgettable challenge of Sant Kabir.